Hello everyone, welcome to Lunchtime News. My name is Rhoda Ngonzi. We'll just dig into it. President Yoweri Museveni yesterday ordered an inquiry into an appalling land eviction matter in Lusanja, Wakiso district, where over 70 families have been evicted and 350 houses destroyed, affecting over 500 people. The eviction started mid this month on a 9.6-acre piece of land, allegedly on the orders of Awan Kichoncho Medet. Addressing the gathering, President Museveni said that the Constitution of Uganda stipulates that a person who was on a piece of land for 12 years by the time that constitution was promulgated is the rightful owner, and that a person who was on the land after 1983 is a bona fide occupant or squatter who holds a right to negotiate and dialogue with the landowner for settlement.
President Yoweri Museveni has paid a courtesy visit to residents of Sekanyonyi zone in Lusanja, Kawempe municipality to ascertain the cause of the eviction of over 1,000 people. The residents were displaced on 75 acres of land by Awan Medad Chichoncho claiming ownership. The land in contention belonged to the late Paul Batavaleho, who gave her daughter Crispa Batavaleho powers of attorney to administer the land. Crispa Batavaleho sold the land to Abeka Kabuye, a businessman.
Someone lives on land for 12 years continuously without any interference after adverse rights. The Mpulira history ya wano abantu batandika okujja wano mu 1989 nga faamu ya Bitarabeho egudde. Ne tubalamya emyaka egyo nga giyita mu 12 years. Ne tugamba abantu batusobola kubajjawo just like that.
Chaos started when Paul Katabazi, a brother to Crispa Batavaleho, told sitting tenants how the land was sold illegally to Medad Chichoncho.
Era tubadde tugenda nga tuinvestigating omusango ogwo mu 19th of September ne tulaba nti wabaddewo a new warrant. A warrant ebajja kutaka abadde bagiwandiise 23rd of August naye twagiraba 19th. Kati bwe twalaba warrant eyo era twabagamba era tujjukira bulungi nga ne bapoliisi we bali ne tugamba newankubadde mugenze mu High Court Registry ekola ku executions n'ebintu nga bino musooke mukiyimirize tukitunuliremu tulabe obanga kino tetijja kuleeta buwangangana mu bantu.
In 2016, High Court ruled in favor of the sitting tenants. Last Friday, Medad Chichoncho destroyed property worth billions, as well as torturing some tenants, and one death case was identified.
Funa emitwalo 7 n'empeereza ku mama wange omulwadde basenga bange batata bange n'enfisawo n'engula akataka kange wali mbadde n'akasereka akayumba kange emyezi 3 emabega mwezayi baakamenye simanyira kumanya nalaye mawulire.
This raised concern by the land inquiry chairperson and the president, who this morning decided to visit the affected persons. The affected persons informed the president how the landowner used General Salim Saleh's name to destroy their property, which prompted the president to make a phone call to the general. Justice Catherine Bamgemerire told the president that the affected persons must be resettled immediately, for evicting them was against the law. Some of the residents informed the president how their leaders have misused their powers as regards ownership of land. President Museveni assured the affected persons with support and instructed the office of the Prime Minister to take action. Some of the women informed the president how they are starving and the lucky ones went back with brown envelopes. The president left with Justice Catherine Bamgemerire to forge a way forward for the affected persons. Sudat Kaye reporting.
Cabinet has directed that resettlement of Bududa landslide victims starts on Thursday. While addressing the media at Uganda Media Centre, State Minister for Disaster Preparedness Musa Echweru said Cabinet approved 32 billion shillings for the resettlement process.
Following the last week's landslide disaster that claimed over 40 people and dozens injured, Cabinet has directed officials to resettle the victims with immediate effect. The victims will be resettled in Bulambuli district, and the State Minister for Disaster Preparedness, Musa Echweru, announced the Cabinet decision at Uganda Media Centre in Kampala.
Cabinet directed resettlement of persons at risk of landslides to begin immediately in the 2,868 acres, as the director had indicated to you here. It should begin immediately, and I want to emphasize that I have just received the call as I was coming that I should be going to launch the exercise the day after tomorrow.
Over 100,000 people in Bududa at high risk will be relocated in phases, beginning with the 12,000 people affected in the recent mudslides.
In addition, government will support them in bush clearing. Government will open for them gardens using tractors. It will help them planting materials, and relief food will continue to be extended, given to them until when they make their first harvest.
Echweru also warned politicians against sabotaging the relocation process.
The truth is that relocation is going to take place. I also made it abundantly clear in my presentation here that there were obstacles to the relocation. One was the ordinary people themselves were resisting to move away from their ancestral place. That is something that was in the assessment, in the persuading, it didn't yield fruits. Two, the politicians, apart from what the director told you, insisting that that was removing their votes. I want to be on record here that one of the politicians said, Mbale is a cold place. Our people are used to this weather. If you take them anywhere out here, they will die of mosquitoes. Can you imagine? And ordinary people being gullible, they believed him.
Bududa landslides broke on Thursday last week, killing over 40 people and injuring scores. Philip Aguta reporting.
Thank you, Philip. Kampala Capital City Authority officially commissioned the Yuri Gagarin Road in Kololo, a road named after the Soviet cosmonaut who was the first man to travel into space. Kampala Minister Betty Kamya officiated at the commissioning together with the State Minister for Foreign Affairs, flanked by Alex Vulin, the Russian Deputy Minister for Telecom and Mass Communication. Let's take a look.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So I want to kindly request,
when His Excellency Volin proposed naming a road in Kampala, Yuri Gagarin, His Excellency the President of Uganda had no hesitation embracing the idea at all, and therefore adding Uganda to a host of other countries around the world who have honored this great scientist, Yuri Gagarin, so that our generation and future generations will always remember and honor him.
He was a kid of mankind because he was the first person from our common earth who came to space. And he did it for everybody, for Russians, for Africans, for Americans, Europeans, Australians. And we today opening the street named after him, remembering the first step of the mankind to the space.
No less than all that property like this will be of almost 300 million.
You are still watching news, lunchtime news. Now, the new source of the Nile Bridge, you probably have seen pictures of it making rounds online. The President commissions it today. On ground is our reporter Jackson Onyango. Jackson, what is so special about this bridge? Just tell us about the bridge.
Yes, a very good afternoon, Rhoda, and viewers watching us from all over the world. We are coming to you from Jinja, where the president, anytime from now, is scheduled to arrive here to launch the new River Nile Bridge here in Jinja, where it is called officially the second bridge on River Nile, because just over there, about 500 meters from where I am, is the old bridge on Nalubale Dam, which is also known as Owen Falls Dam. As you can see, a number of vehicles are passing or crossing over the bridge, and that is the official cross points today that is being used, connecting eastern part of the country to the western part of the country, that is in Njeru and Kampala. So that is the main transport way that we have been using. But over the years, that bridge has developed some cracks, which necessitated the construction of this bridge, the Cable Stayed Bridge here on River Nile. This bridge sits in between the old bridge, which is on Nalubale Dam, and on this other side, south side, is the railway bridge. Of course, the railway bridge, having been constructed in 1920, happens to be the first bridge to have been constructed on River Nile here in Uganda. So that's where the railway crosses. But this bridge certainly is very important, because for the next few years, about 100, we are told that this bridge is constructed to last for over 120 years. So any other governments that will come even after this government and our generation, Rhoda, will be able to use this bridge, and possibly we shall be able to save some money for that period of time. This bridge equally is very important, because you are aware that most of our imports today come from Mombasa port, and as such it is necessary to have this bridge, because if the other bridge has developed cracks, maybe very soon it will be closed to the public and any motorcades will not be able to access that point. For the moment, we are told that the motorcycles will be allowed to use that bridge, but heavy vehicles will not cross that bridge. This bridge here, the second, the Cable Stayed Bridge here in Jinja, the second, as it is known, the second Nile Bridge, is about half a kilometer long. That is about 525 meters, and it is a dual carriageway. What I mean by that is that there are vehicles that it is one way. You have vehicles that will be coming from eastern side, crossing from the other side, and those coming from Kampala, Mukono, Njeru will be passing on this side where I am. But also it is designed in such a way that on this other side, on either side, pedestrians and other persons moving on foot will be able to pass here equally on the other side. Rhoda, so that's what is happening here, and we are expecting the president to arrive here at any time. This bridge was constructed, it is a joint by Japan International Cooperation Agency, that was the funder, and it was constructed by Zinataka Corporation and Hyundai of South Korea. So, of course, that is to say that, you know, that we used to, Japan used to have a lot of ventures here in education, agriculture, but not mega infrastructures like what we are seeing here today. The Chinese have, in recent times, been involved in the construction of major infrastructures, dam, roads, and so on. So this bridge here today possibly is an indication of a new relation between Uganda and the government of Japan. Back to you, Rhoda.
Big step in our infrastructural development, but what's the feel of the locals in Jinja, and how excited are they about this bridge?
I can tell you, Rhoda, I can tell you that the mood is so high here in Jinja. People are excited. We have seen people possibly coming from around Jinja already gathered somewhere. Here where I am, only the press and a few officials are allowed to access this point where the president is going to cut the tape as the sign of officially launching this bridge. There are ministers here, there are members of parliament from across the country, and other officials from government, parastatals, and the private sector. So every person here, I can tell you, they are optimistic that the future of Uganda is bright.
Jackson, now the live event of the president's commissioning of the new Nile Bridge we will broadcast that live. But moving on, Jennifer Museveni's reign as Kampala Capital City Authority Executive Director will end on December 15th. If the appointing authority does accept her resignation, Museveni's influence in Kampala has been deeply felt to the extent of some sections of the public interchanging the city's name and operations with her. Samuel Galandi takes us through Museveni's reign.
In April 2011, news broke about the appointment of an executive director to run the newly created Kampala Capital City Authority. Jennifer Museveni Semakula Chiwanuka was the name. She had been part of an elite club of excellence at URA headed by Allen Kajina. This excellence was to be replicated at KCCA under Museveni's iron hand reign. She spearheaded the transformation of the city administration from a local government to a corporate entity under the central government. Museveni organized the city, infrastructure development, tax collections, and corporate governance. In March 2014, her contract was renewed for another 3 years to run from 15th April 2014 till 14th April 2017. But her style of management attracted quick opposition from the authority's political wing, headed by the Lord Mayor, Erias Lukwago.
Clerk conduct the vote. Those in favor of the motion that the Lord Mayor be removed from office.
Ensuing legal and political battles led to the impeachment of the Lord Mayor, Erias Lukwago, in 2013. But Lukwago victoriously bounced back to City Hall with a landslide victory in 2016 polls. Analysts interpreted this as a vote of no confidence against Museveni, while some NRM politicians criticized her for leading to poor performance in Kampala. But President Museveni renewed her appointment to run from April 2017 to April 2020, in which she seems to have changed her management style. 2 years to the expiry of her tenure, Museveni has resigned, ending 7.5 years of service. The letter states 15th December 2018. Museveni cites funding and irreconcilable differences between the political and technical wings of the authority for her resignation. Samuel Galandi, UBC News.
We are back. Thanks for sticking with us. Today, again, the President will commission the 525-meter long bridge in Jinja. We just earlier on talked to Onyango Jackson, who was on the bridge. But now let's head over to Blair Kalanzi, who is at the venue where the President will be commissioning this bridge. Blair Kalanzi.
Thank you so much, Rhoda. Dear viewers of UBC TV Inspiring Uganda, we are coming to live from the border of Buganda and Busoga at the new Nile Bridge. Now, what you're seeing behind me is the new Nile Bridge that His Excellency the President is launching this afternoon, is commissioning this afternoon. Now, this project started in 2014, 4 years down the road when the construction is going on. Today, it is accomplished. It is accomplished. Now, we could not go any further before we talk to the brains behind this project. With me here, I have the former ED of UNRA, Uganda National Roads Authority, Mr. Sebanachita, whom we want us to get to know how this idea started. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
You're live on UBC Lunchtime News.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Now, we get to know that you and your team were behind the idea of the new Nile Bridge. Tell us, how did it start?
Well, the idea of having a second bridge came after realizing that the existing crossing across the River Nile, that is the Nalubale Dam, was in a precarious condition. When you walk or drive on the surface of the existing bridge, it doesn't look all that alarming, but when you go down below into the powerhouse, the situation was quite alarming, and we were not sure whether the bridge would survive for another 10 or 15 years. Now, if the bridge were to collapse, you can imagine the impact it would have on the economy of Uganda and the economy of East Africa as a whole. So we had to come up with a concept of designing a new crossing. At first, we looked into the feasibility of repairing the existing crossing across on the dam, but that was not very feasible. So the practical idea was to come up with an alternative crossing that would replace the existing crossing over the dam.
Is this a replacement or an alternative of the old one?
Well, matter of semantics, because it is going to, for the time being, it is going to work in parallel with the existing crossing. But since we don't know how long we are going to, how long the old Naluvale crossing is going to last, ultimately this bridge, which has been designed for 120 years, will replace the existing Naluvale.
Okay, we talk about the 4.5 years of construction. Tell us about the initial stages before 2014, the plans. How did you come with the idea, and which team? Because when we see this is a world-class bridge, one of its kind, the first in East Africa, and one of the few in Africa. Tell us about how you came with this idea.
Well, personally, I was very fortunate to work with a very talented and committed team. From the our political supervisors, Honorable Nasasila, he was able to garner political support for this, for the bridge, for the new bridge. We got support from all quarters, and then my technical team, headed by a very distinguished engineer, David Luyimbazi, got to work. We had to identify the alternative crossings. We narrowed it down to 3 crossings. The one ultimately chosen is the existing one, but there was another one upstream near the Ripon Falls, and another one, an alternative after the existing dam. For various reasons, this was deemed to be the most economically and technically feasible crossing. So once that had been identified, we got financing from the government of Japan to do the design. The design took about, started in around 2008, 7-8. We carried out the design. The design was reviewed. Because of the complexity of the bridge, a lot of tests were done, both on the ground, in Korea and in Japan, to make sure that the ultimate design that we agreed on would stand the loading, would stand the wind forces, will stand the lightning, because this area has got is prone to lightning, and also any tectonic, that is earthquake forces.
Okay, Mr. Sibanachita, lastly, because we want to hand over back to the news, whom did you contract and at how much?
That is for the construction of the bridge. Yeah, it was a consortium of Korean and Japanese team. They were contracted in 2014. By that time, I had left UNRWA, so it's the new team that was there that did the contract. But I understand the initial cost was around $100 million. Eventually, it came to $120 million or thereabout.
Okay, there are a lot, because the project was supposed to be complete in April this year, but there was an extension. But maybe you're not in position to answer those questions. My dear viewer, we are going to seek those answers later on when we are carrying out our live broadcast. Thank you so much for talking to us, Mr. Chebana.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
May God bless you.
Thanks a lot.
And enjoy the rest of the celebration.
Thank you.
All right, dear viewers, that is a brief of how the bridge started. The idea started with Mr. Svanachita before he left UNRWA, now currently under the hands of Mrs. Allen Kajina. Rhoda, what you should know that the president anytime from now will be arriving here to commission officially the new Nile Bridge. Now, this new Nile Bridge borders Busoga and Buganda. It bridges Busoga and Buganda. It is one of a kind, a world-class bridge. You can say the first of its kind in East Africa. We shall be broadcasting live the event as everything unfolds here. Back to you, Rhoda.
Thank you, Dennis Black. Lanzi, it is a moment of pride for Ugandans, but most importantly, we cannot wait for the opportunities that will soar from this new bridge. And now, a short break. Welcome back. You are still watching Lunchtime News. In sports, Uganda is a point away to the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations. Uganda defeated Lesotho 2-0, courtesy of Farouk Mia in the 6th and 34th minute goals. Now, Uganda is 10 points on top of the table, waiting to play Tanzania away and Cape Verde at Nambole. In the other games played, Tanzania defeated Cape Verde 2-0 and are second on the table. And now with me in studio is Fiona Namiro, commonly known as Fifi Pinky, to talk about, well, Ugandan football, specifically Uganda Cranes. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we've won twice. What does this mean for us? What does it mean?
I think it's a stopping stone for us because in the past, Uganda winning home and away was a bit difficult, at least for home matches in Nambole. But winning away from home, of course, the preparations had to be hiked. And I believe it's a good thing because that is also something very good towards Nations Cup, where we've been struggling. More so, the third and fourth matches always disturbed us in groups.
So now we are a point away to the 2019 Africa Cup of Games. Where does this leave us? Are we ready to play?
Yeah, we are ready to play, and I think we are ready to announce ourselves with the big names. CAF, of course, changed dynamics from 16 teams qualifying to 24, and we already at least made a name for ourselves in the Sekafa region because we are best at taking so many Sekafas, record champions. So it meant that we had to open up, go away from Sekafa and try introduce yourself on the African scene with the likes of West African countries, South Africa, and of course North Africa, because the likes of Egypt, Morocco have been doing it. Then for Uganda, qualifying consecutively, because qualifying last time we had taken about 38, 39 years, but doing it consecutively will be so good. A point is hard to play for, but I believe when Cape Verde visit Uganda on the 16th next month, Uganda will be ready. This is very good. It is very good actually to play for a point with the game to finish the group stages.
Now, we are consistent. You've said we've played Sekafa and we have been performing. We've done the qualifying matches home and away perfectly well. Ugandans seem impressed. Explain this performance to us.
First, government has to be thanked. Whenever government steps in, because I think with 2 matches played, a government, His Excellency General Kaguta Museveni, announced that FUFA had been given 10 billions. 10 billions, that means that for the remaining 4 matches, that is 2.5 for each game. That is very good because FUFA has always been crying with lack of funds. We don't have to transport the team, this and this. At one time in January, January last year, they were talking about not appearing at the Nations Cup because of lack of funds. But when you have money, and even prior to playing Lesotho here on Saturday, a government issued out 200 millions. The players actually were motivated, each given 5 millions outside their bonus scheme that they were promised by FIFA. So they were, that is motivated enough. And then when you go to the players, you go to the technical team, because it is not only management and giving funds, you have to have a very good technical team in calling the players who are playing, who are on form, and players probably who have the experience, and players who have the class to play for Uganda. I believe FIFA with their technical committee stood still and decided to call the right players for the team. I believe Ugandans are impressed, first of all, for the style, because when you're playing with a very good style and delivering, that is the best thing. Earlier on, we struggled winning away from home. In Uganda, in Nambole, it had become a fortress. It had become a hunting ground. 2 goals, 3 goals, and even a goal. Maybe Togo coming and punishing us.
Yes.
That is 1-0. But again, we built our fortress again. Now, getting away, because in this qualification season, Uganda won away in Cape Verde, cuts of Geoffrey Serunkumba. But right now, he's nowhere near the players being called. That means the coaches realized that probably Serunkumba cannot help us further. They went for young players. They are giving a Patrick Kadu, a former top scorer of the big league. They are bringing in Idrissa Lubega. This is a boy who was playing in a schools tournament 2 years ago for Dynamic SS in Mukono.
Okay.
Then suddenly Proline gives him away to FC Raid because he's playing there on loan. He comes back from Austria, he's gotten the experience, and he's giving everything for his nation. So I believe it is, first of all, thanking government, then the funds. They have not, of course, come to fill Nambole to capacity, but those that come will rally behind their team. And that is why we saw so many funds taken on the chartered plane to Lesotho to rally behind the team. Then you go on definitely to the media. We are part of the media, me and you. We've given the team what they need. You point out the errors that are being done, and then you mention what should be done. I believe FIFA, government, and even the players, they do watch these shows. So that means that it is a collective effort for all of us. But definitely when you say the fans are impressed, they are impressed with the style of play that the coach promised and is now delivering.
Now, talk about the next game that Uganda Cranes will be
playing. That is in a month from now,
yes.
16th November. They are playing Cape Verde. Uganda won in Cape Verde, in the fixture in Cape Verde, actually with harsh conditions, because apparently the team missed its flight and they went there 3 hours to the game. So if you know what is involved in playing a game, the warm-ups, it is tense environment. Sometimes you're even denied to get the right conditions to play, but they managed to snatch a win. And Cape Verde were looked at as a team that would actually bring Uganda problems. So Uganda winning was a stepping stone and a milestone to the team. We are having Cape Verde here. Playing for 1 point is a bit hard. I've seen Goma here actually suffering a lot in the Confederation Cup. They were playing for only a point, but they were beaten the last 2 matches and actually missed going to the next stage. So I believe for the team, they should be told that we are playing for a win, for 3 points. Because when you're at 10, someone has 5 points and someone has 4, you're playing them. We are playing Cape Verde and lastly Tanzania in March next year. So I believe the next game should be handled the same way the last 3 games have been handled. Calling the players at the right time in camp, the coach mixing, because this time he gave chance to the local players. That is 8 of them playing in our local league, mixing them with the players playing away from home. But this time, not calling players who don't have clubs. In the past, they called players who didn't have clubs. These players were not fit enough.
Yes.
Then the coach also decided to bring in, that is a physician, to help out with the physical aspect of the team.
Yes.
The nutrition was catered for, and definitely the times we didn't see clubs going to the gym. But right now we have the coach going to clubs and giving advice, the way they should be actually handling the players. And then what we see is the coach sometimes flying out, going to actually see if those players are playing in their respective leagues and countries. And I believe that has helped us a lot. We need to just tighten the preparations, have a more focused technical team, and I guess we'll get there.
Is the group we're in weak or?
it's not weak. Everybody who qualifies gets there. The good thing is, after going to Nations Cup, the previous edition, in the ranking we rose up. So we didn't need to play preliminary stages this time, and we just got into qualification and a group. That means that our football has improved. The group is not weak because just like those others that got into the group, they struggled. Even if Lesotho came through the preliminary stages, it beat someone to come there. It is not weak, and apparently in Africa, the worst thing you can actually experience is playing away from home. Teams do lots of things. They can deny you going to the dressing rooms. They can deny you transport that, of course, CAF approves of for home teams to do. So they put harsh conditions for you. To frustrate you, yes. And you cannot actually persevere. But Uganda winning 2 games away from home. 2 games away from home. In the past, when we won, people were like, it's a miracle. What is this? The group is not a weak one. I believe they are strong. But Uganda actually topping the group has shown that we've done something right this time, and we are apparently stronger.
Thank you very much, Fiona, sports journalist and analyst. You've been watching Lunchtime News. I'm Rhoda Ngonzi. Have yourselves a lovely day.